All right.
Good evening, everybody. This is the Town of New Canaan Town Council regular meeting, Wednesday, June 15th, 2022. It's 7:03. You can join us on Zoom as well. We have the link up on the town website. And we welcome you to come in. And if you want to ask questions later, we will have you on the floor. First item on the agenda is we're going to welcome PAC 7 and we're going to do a pledge of allegiance. Open the meeting. Ready?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you guys for coming.
Having us.
Like to say a few words?
Sure. Pack 7 New Canaan, one of the 3 Cub Scout packs in town. We have members of mostly the Wolf Den, but also the Bear and Tiger Den. We just finished our year. We earned rank badges. It was a really, really busy year for Pack 7. We had 24 events, including this appearance, as well as a virtual appearance of the January Town Council meeting. And last week we had our annual, should I say, signature recruiting event, Rockets and Ice Cream, which the town Parks and Recreation Commission gave us permission to use Waveney Park. And it was a smash success. Everybody had a good time. And we captured 40 prospects across town, potential new members, which is up 50% from last year. So it was, it wasn't just a fun time. It was really productive for the scouts. And we are very grateful to the town for its support.
Good. Thank you so much.
For having us here tonight as well.
Rockets and ice cream. It doesn't get any better than that. That's pretty good. So you guys going to go to school for another couple months or what?
No, another couple. Another 2 days. 8 plus 18, double 666.
All right.
1 plus 1.
Well, enjoy your summers, guys. Thanks for coming out. We appreciate it.
You guys looking good.
Thank you.
666.
I guess we've been told. Okay. All right, let's do the roll next, Penny.
Robin Bates Mason,
Here.
Rita Bettina,
Here.
Tom Butterworth,
Here.
Mark Tinsky.
He's going to be absent tonight. He's got a graduation.
Okay, Steve Carl.
Here.
Luke Kaufman,
Present.
Mike Morrow,
He's on his way.
Maria Naughton,
Here.
Kimberly Norton,
Here.
Hillary Ormond,
Here.
Christina Ross, and Penny Young here, and we have a quorum.
Thank you, Penny. All right, minutes. Approval of minutes for regular meeting held on May 18th. Any corrections, deletions?
I have a correction. When we talk about waiving the ADA, we use the word that the changes are required immediately. Could we just take that word out? I mean, they're required. I mean, immediate's a relative term considering we've been at this for 30 years.
Good point. Sure.
Do you want any time on it at all or just?
It's not necessary. It just, we need to complete these renovations.
You got that one, Tiger? Okay. Any other comments? All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's unanimous. Thank you. All right. Without further ado, we'd like to bring up a retiring member of the Board of Finance. Mr. Budnick, would you come forward? That's perfect. We need to see you and hear you clearly.
You know how many times I wish I sat in that back row?
It's nice back there, isn't it?
It is nice. You get to just listen.
All right, so Neil has retired after 15 years. 15 short years on the Board of Finance, and we invited him here tonight so that we could thank you for your service. So I'm going to just open up the floor and let everybody thank you or say their piece. So if you want to start, Hillary, you want to start down there? We'll work our way up.
Sure. I'm a newbie here, so I've been following though town happenings for quite a few years, and we've all benefited from your expertise. And I certainly have learned a lot. I'm not a finance person. That's why I went into law. So I appreciate your service so much. I know it's a lot of work and a lot of time as I'm learning, and the town and all of us have benefited greatly from your service. So we thank you.
Can beat the 15.
I don't know. I don't know if I've got it in me, but we could all be so lucky. So thank you so much.
I just want to thank you for your service to our town and ask if you have any advice for us newbies, but you don't have to answer that if you don't want to.
Next.
No, I want to thank you so much for your service for the last 15 years. I've been watching all the Board of Finance meetings for the last 4 years, watching you, and it's been great. So thank you so much for your service.
So first, a shout out to the Board of Finance. I mean, I'm not a total newbie, but ever since I began, I've learned to appreciate the Board of Finance more and more. And I associate you with the typical debate where the comments would go across the board from one end to the other. And then maybe again, more comments. And then finally, we're waiting for you to sort of put your finger on the real issue and say, ladies and gentlemen, here's an insight. We all go, oh, now I get it.
Perry Mason.
Yeah, thank you.
That's reflective of how thorough you are in your analysis of everything that has been before you. And on the rare occasion where there's been a mistake, you have picked it up. And it's not really a mistake. It's maybe just a not thoroughly described as precisely as you should be. And it's always done with a smile.
And I have a note here from Mark Jimsky, who couldn't make it. He says, "Dear Neil, thanks for your countless hours of work on behalf of this town. It's been a pleasure getting to know you and work with you these past few years. Your expertise and knowledge are invaluable and an asset to the town. It is people like you that make this town run so smoothly and remain such an attractive place to live. I wish you all the best as you transition into the next phase of your retirement. All the best, Mark Jimsky." Maria?
I just want to say best wishes, congratulations. I'll miss your, luckily I was part of one of those meetings when we had our joint Board of Finance town council. And I really appreciate your critical analysis. And like Tom said, kind of like pulling it all into perspective. So we'll miss you. Have fun.
Appreciate you blazing a trail. I'm new here. But you know, for you to set forth what and set the bar very high of what we need to accomplish. Appreciate and challenge accepted and excited to you know, follow in your footsteps.
And I also am new, and I just like to echo a lot of what people have been saying. I have been following the meetings, not everyone, but I did learn a lot from your comments, not just because they were insightful, but because they were civil. And I thought you always kept the conversation in a pertinent light, let's just say. So I really appreciate that. And I really thank you just as a town member. The Board of Finance is so important, keeping our town fiscally aware and responsible. And just thank you for your service.
It was really nice. I just wallow in this for 15 years, so I really had to earn it.
Neil, what do you think? What was your favorite project that you worked on? What do you think?
My favorite one was Town Hall.
Town Hall, yeah.
Because, you know, it was just unsolvable for, you know, years, right? Just on and on. There were so many different questions about how it would look. And I think it came out as perfect mix where everyone's happy. And the front stairs, and blew that one. I really love these infrastructure projects, and the library where I'm the liaison, it's similar to that, you know, just what you can do. It's just so much fun. But I have to say the biggest improvement, I think, is actually financial accounting and reporting, which, you know, 15 years ago,
yeah,
that was like, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm that kind of guy. I'm so spoken. What did I just say?
Financial accounting.
Oh, financial accounting, yeah. So I think that that is really a big deal and we've come a long way on that. So, and that's the core of but, and I love now how we theorize and philosophize on what the town should be and whether this building should be built, you know, the connection to that. I went to the Powerhouse Theater the other night, just test it out. And, you know, it was interesting to see how the presentation was like and unlike the actual situation. So, so there's a lot of fun stuff going on.
Yeah.
And, you know, I started in New Canaan working at Bob Sports in college.
Wow.
So,
I didn't know that.
I did a long time. And my parents used to square dance at the Ponus Chapel, you know, up on they had square dancing and all that. So I've got a long history here. So it's been wonderful. It's a great town. Everyone does a great job. Everyone really tries to be supportive. You know, I know there are a lot of ugly politics in the world, but I really don't think we're really at the top of that heap in terms of the number. And we all try to stay civil. So it's good. You guys are going to have a lot of fun. But least favorite, those budget nights.
We won't talk about that.
Yeah, you got to do it, but
It's a grind.
yeah.
I wrote down just 10 words that describe you the best. I said collaborative, creative, thoughtful, wise beyond your years, incredible financial acumen. You're a problem solver, an out of the box thinker. You've always led by example. And you've never said a mean thing in 15 years that I've ever heard out of your mouth. I mean, you've been one of the kindest people in the world. You build consensus at every turn. You're never political. You're always about New Canaan. And we can't thank you enough for all the service over the past 15 years. It's been an incredible run, baby. And it's not over yet. Somebody's going to tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? So all the best in retirement. We're going to miss you. And I really have loved working with you on the library stuff. I mean, it's been a lot of fun.
Very
So
interesting.
can't wait can't wait to have a cup of coffee in there with you someday.
Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Good luck.
And good luck to all of you.
Thank you.
Enjoy.
All right. Public comments. Members of the public are welcome to speak to the council on agenda topics scheduled to review and or vote. Speakers are required to provide their name and address. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, subject to the total number of speakers. Do we have anybody from the public who would like to speak tonight? No one in the room. Anybody? Oh. Would you like to speak? Yeah. Okay, yeah, come on up. Yeah, well, yeah, that's fine. You or a table, yeah, that's fine. Actually, Nick, right here is fine, Nick.
Great.
Just introduce yourself and let us know where you live.
Sure. I'm Nick Howard. I live at 114 West Road. Lived here 25 years. I did have the good fortune to come and talk to you guys a couple of months ago about Owen Park. So it's nice to, wasn't expecting to be here, but here we are again and nice to be here. And thank you for the support of the park, by the way. So why am I here? I'm here to speak in support of the efforts that are being made to bring back the Playhouse. I've lived here 25 years. I put my 4 children, my wife and I came here and we were very fortunate to have 4 children. We put them through the New Canaan public schools. It was an incredible experience and the town has been wonderful. I love this town. And I guess it's part of my duty to give back. And so, you know, I started to hear about, you know, the Playhouse project. My kids, my wife and I, friends, family, etc., took advantage of the wonderful Playhouse for many, many years. And obviously it was a great shame when the doors closed during COVID. And I think it's, you know, it is clearly, you know, somebody told me it was the beating heart of the city, of the town. Now, that might be a bit strong, but it's, you know, it's certainly important to this town and to the children and families and all the citizens. So I've decided to volunteer to help with this effort. And one of the unusual things about this, been working with the selectmen and the Board of Finance. I'm very much pleased to be here to talk to you briefly tonight. But the other interesting thing is that the CEO of Cinema Lab, who looking to be part of bringing this back in a public-private partnership with the town. The CEO is a longstanding friend of mine. I've known him for 20 years. Like me, he started his life in the UK and emigrated to the US. And I got to know him. His name is Luke Parker Bowles. And I got to know him through a sad incident, a horrific incident, which was 9/11. When 9/11 happened, there were 250 British Commonwealth, Canadians, Australians, Indians killed that day downtown, almost 10%. And believe me, it was a very raw, horrific matter when we had the widows and widowers gathered downtown, along with over 500 orphans. That was a very grisly moment. And that was when I met Luke Parker Bowles. And we and a lot of other members of the British Commonwealth community decided we were going to build a memorial to these people. And we did it. And we did it in partnership, public-private partnership, with the city of New York, with Mayor Giuliani and Mayor Bloomberg. They gave us the right to develop about a third of an acre just south of Wall Street in Hanover Square. If anybody knows that area down there, it's literally the square outside Harry's Bar. And it was a slab of concrete, and we turned it into a lovely city park, a garden. And we got the Queen Elizabeth II to put her name on it, and Prince Charles to be the patron. And they helped us a lot also with the money raising effort. All the money was raised privately. We raised $8 million. 4 of it went into building the garden, the park. Sounds like a lot of money. When you start digging in New York, it gets expensive pretty quick. That's what I discovered. And then 4 million of it went into a foundation to keep it in good standing in perpetuity. So it's a beautiful park. People use it every day. People who work down there eat their lunch in the garden in the summer, et cetera, et cetera. Why is that relevant? Why that's relevant is because Luke Parker Bowles, I didn't know him at that time, 20 years ago, and he and I and a number of others decided we were going to do this, and we did it. And it took us a long time, but we did it. And that's the sort of person he is. If he commits to the town that he's going to go and deliver in partnership with the town, bringing it back, he and his team are going to do that. And so I volunteered to help them and to talk to the great citizens of New Canaan about what we need to do. We obviously, the town is bringing the building up to code, and you know all about that with what they're going to do. The town is intending to do to help support bringing that cinema back, that playhouse back. And then we in turn are going to raise some private monies, which will be part of Cinema Lab New Canaan LLC. So that's what I'm about, and that's what hopefully we're going to do. And we'll do our best to try and make it happen. But I'm here to speak really on behalf of who is Luke Parker Bowles. He's a very fine gentleman. He's had a career in the media business and the film business. And when he tells the town that he's committed to do this, I have seen him in action, and he's going to do it. So, and I'm going to help him. So, and I hope everybody in the town is going to help us. I think it's a great thing for the town, and we need to bring it back.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Nick.
Any questions? Is that appropriate,
We
Mr. Chairman?
we can save those questions for
Okay,
later.
thank you.
I think we'll invite you into our executive when the time comes. Tucker, do we have anybody else online? Okay. All right. Next up for Selectmen's update, Kevin. Thank you.
Don't get used to that.
Handful of you, Kevin.
Good evening, Town Council.
How are you?
Good to be here again in person. I have a few items which I gave to the Board of Finance last week. I'll give them to you. COVID, we continue to test 3 days a week. We continue to do vaccination clinics and booster clinics. The testing is dwindling. I think we had 20 last Friday. I just read that the federal government's not going to support testing after June 30th. So I don't know exactly. The state has money to continue testing at 20 locations around the state. So I'm not sure what changes we'll make at the end coming into July, but then we also have the prospect of under age 5 vaccinations being approved. But the numbers have come down considerably, obviously. Capital projects. The CHP is now installed in this building. Will be operational very soon. Tiger, as you know, we have a whole bunch of paving projects will be done over the next few months. We keep on getting a lot of questions about when. There's a lot of contracts that have been given. You may have noticed last night, the Eversource Gas is installing the gas line in Upper Elm. They're doing it at night to accommodate the merchants on that street. And it'll be Grove Street and Pine Street, and then a bit of East Avenue over to Forest Street. That'll be done in the next several weeks, and they'll also go over and connect Waveney Park. And I think I told that we have the good news that Eversource Gas believes they can extend gas into not only Lapham Center, which will power the lights in the Lapham Center. CHP will power the lights. That the pool and the paddle huts and Waveney House, surprisingly, we didn't think they could afford to, without charging us, bring gas to Waveney House. But anyway, that's all good news. And this is the last final stage of the expansion project, which, as I think I reported to you, the Cura ended the 10-year program, which Governor Malloy had authorized 1 year early. And so the incentives to expand are ending. Anyone who hasn't hooked up will not have the incentives of a free hookup. There may be a charge. So that's the status of the gas expansion. Dunning Lights, the schools have signed power purchase agreements for the solar on the high school. And we are signing a power purchase agreement for the lights at Dunning on the high school roof. So that solarization continues. There will be a hearing on June 28th virtually with respect to the Permis Ridge Cell Public Safety Tower at 1837 Permis Ridge. Anyone who wants to comment can comment at that hearing. We will also be announcing another cell tower at the Board of Selectmen meeting on the 28th. And the PD Building Committee is at the stage of looking at what we call the town hall option to knock off the back of the current building, and like we did with this building, and build a new back. And the building committee will meet again next week and probably come to the Board of Finance in early July and possibly make your meeting for mid-July to move that forward. Last week, the Board of Selectmen approved the town's 830J affordable housing plan, as you may have read. This is just a plan that's required by the state. Obviously, we've been working on affordable housing for 15 years with the Millport and Mill and Canaan Parish developments. The interesting, so the way the affordable housing plan was done was wrapped around what WestCog ended up calling their affordable housing toolkit. So although the WestCog plan is not filed with the state, it gives a lot of background as to what towns and cities in Fairfield County are doing with respect to affordable housing. And at a WestCog meeting a couple weeks ago, they emphasized that Fairfield County is the most productive in terms of affordable housing compared to the rest of the state. So despite a lot of criticism we get, the numbers show that Fairfield County is the most creative when it comes to building affordable housing. You also, I thought I'd take a few minutes to elaborate on the status of our 830G moratorium. Tucker, could you put up that slide? Came as a great surprise 2 weeks ago when we were about to file for the moratorium application to have the state telling us that the rules had changed, that deductions have to be taken now for units that are demolished. And I remind people, if they're not aware, that in July of 2018, July 31st, I think it was, the Canaan Parish project was presented in this room to the Planning and Zoning Commission. So our affordable housing strategy is implemented by our housing authority, which is appointed by this body, not by the Board of Selectmen. The Planning and Zoning Commission, in their planning capacity, works with the housing authority to put forth plans. So that Canaan Parish proposal, which involved removing 60 obsolete, non-ADA compliant buildings that didn't have air conditioning and didn't have dishwashers and a lot of things. We put forth a proposal, as we had with Millport, to demolish and rebuild, which, according to what the rules were on our first moratorium, there were no deductions for units demolished. And as you see by the slide, the presentation that night included a presentation of what the strategy was with respect to achieving a second and many points toward a third moratorium. The attorney on the project was Attorney Tim Hollister, who was representing our housing authority. And the year following that plan, Mr. Hollison appealed the Westport's moratorium and established the rule that demolished units should be deducted. And it was still not clear whether on New Canaan's facts with respect to our units, which are we regarded as not really eligible for affordable housing any longer, needed to be deducted. And in discussions with the Department of Housing, the individual who oversees the processing of moratoriums indicated that they would deduct. And it's really unusual. This for lawyers. Normally, when you file an application with the government agency, you simply file it based on your facts. They require, in this case, a legal opinion be provided, certifying you comply with regulations. And since Birch and Moses was informed that deductions had to be taken, they couldn't issue that certification, and therefore we were not in a position to file the moratorium application until the remaining 40 units are completed. Now, I would emphasize that everyone doesn't agree with that position. Scott Hobbs and David McCarthy and others who worked on that project are in sharp disagreement with the current status of this. And it's possible we may be able to change the housing department's mind, but we are still, but again, that was presented as a plan with the endorsement, if not the authoring, by Attorney Tim Hollister.
Is there a date on that slide?
It's July 31st, 2018. Hollister, actually, you might, we'll give you the entire slide presentation. Also, I looked at the video of that meeting today, and it's interesting to, Mr. Hollister went on to call the town of Westport racist. And the first selectman in Westport went to the Board of Education and said, you have to fire this law firm, Shippen and Goodman. And instead, Mr. Hollister was fired by that law firm. He's now with another law firm. So we're not happy about this situation. This is not what we expected.
Is there any chance of getting a second opinion from another law firm, perhaps?
Well, it's pretty impossible to shop lawyers at this stage. And I believe Nick Monty is correct. It's really, we don't want to end up in litigation with the housing department.
We don't? No.
Well, that's what we have to.
Understood. I wonder if we could find a lawyer perhaps that has won against Mr. Hollister.
Well, Mr. Hollister may end up, if we try to go in with another law firm, Mr. Hollister would certainly, as he did with Westport, as he did with our, he commented on our draft application.
Right.
That we had not taken deductions, which is directly contradictory to what he recommended before our P and Z commission in 2018.
Precisely. And
So-
I still contend that he has a conflict. But which I find very problematic, and I find his position here extremely problematic, but putting that aside, it seems to me that reasonable legal minds here differ. So I don't, I would not see a problem shopping. I mean, Mike, do you have an opinion? I don't see a problem with getting a second legal opinion. I don't know what Mr. Bamonte's credentials are as far as land use or affordable housing. I
Nick,
mean,
you-
are there other affordable housing?
Ira
areas that
Bloom,
could
keep in mind, Ira
seem like a
Bloom,
big enough deal?
Ira Bloom and Pete Gellerman represented the town of Westport in their appeal.
Right.
They are very expert in this area to the extent moratoriums have been litigated around the state. And Nick is a very good lawyer. You've seen Nick before this body. And so I'm disappointed in the position the housing department has taken, but we decided at this point it's not a good strategy to get into litigation with them. And we don't want Mr. Hollister to get us into litigation. So.
I just, in the way I look at it, I mean, I tend to agree with Hillary. You know, I'm surprised kind of where we're at right now. And if there's plenty of attorneys out there that would be willing to take a second look.
Actually, like, there's very few lawyers in Connecticut that are expert in this area. We went to Mr. Hollister because he's the expert in this area to represent our housing authority.
Right, no, I understand that, but to me, it kind of does give the appearance of, you know, a bit of a conflict.
Oh.
Don't you agree with that?
Well, but again, what's our remedy? A grievance doesn't give us really much remedy.
I'm not saying, well.
So
that's precisely-
litigation with the state would not probably be our best course of action.
No, I'm not suggesting that. I understand, you know, what's a grievance really going to do to help us. What I'm concerned about is relief for the town.
Right.
Yeah, as we all are, and making sure that the town is properly protected moving forward. You know, I think that perhaps we should look to find another council to take a look. I get it. It's an extremely niche area of Connecticut law. And there's probably very few attorneys that are knowledgeable in the area. It doesn't mean we can't find somebody to take a look. I think there's a lot of discontent and very much a large amount of concern on behalf of the citizens, especially those in the Weed Street area saying, you know, what can we do? Are we pushing every lever that we can? And I'm not specifically targeting any particular project, but it's just overall in the larger scope of what the town needs to do in coming up with their Marshall Plan, so to speak, and how we, you know, comply with the state statute, right? It has to be complied with. You know, we have moratoriums that we have to have, need to be applied, but that can't be our strategy in perpetuity, right? Moratoriums. We have to
Well,
come up with
No,
something.
there has to be our strategy in perpetuity because we'll never have 10% housing in New Canaan.
Well,
You know, if you want to have 4 more Canaan parishes, you tell me where we're going to put them.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, this is precisely why I thought it'd be a great idea to have a public forum on a large discussion about this issue, right? Because what you're saying to me, right, is this is an issue that can never be solved other than through a moratorium. That's kind of.
Well,
what
again,
we-
that's a fact of life with respect to economics in New Canaan, Connecticut. Besides the scarcity of property, the cost of property simply makes it nearly impossible to build affordable housing in New Canaan. We can talk about strategies in terms of whether the town should, taxpayers should be trying to buy land to build affordable housing. But literally, first of all, you know, the Westcog meeting that we had 3 weeks ago, talking about the plan, it was emphasized 10% is not a goal of the state. It's a trigger to allow developers to come in and do something which is totally crazy. It's crazy public policy, right? It's crazy that Greenwich has 13 830 Gs pending on Greenwich Avenue with 7-story building proposals, right? It's crazy. That law has to be changed. It doesn't work for towns like Greenwich, Darien, New Canaan, Westport. So, but until that changes, we have to play their game, which is a 10% moratorium to stay on the treadmill. You know?
Right.
So
Well-
we'll stay on the treadmill until the law gets changed.
Right, and I, you know, we have to play with the, you know, hand we're dealt with, and I know you're
Yeah.
moving forward on that. And I've discussed this with some of my colleagues. I just think that the town in general, I think, would be well served, and it's not necessarily anything for you to comment on, but would be well served if their elected officials, or at least hosting something, a forum or something to that effect. And we invite them in, we invite yourself, our town attorney, the experts in the area and maybe, P and Z. And we have a larger discussion for the town, for the residents, right? For them, like you just said, that's the kind of the hamster wheel we're on. It's the moratorium. It's a tough town to meet a 10% requirement. But having, a larger strategy and a larger discussion with the town, with the residents, so they can understand. I get questions all the time when I'm explaining exactly what you've just said. You're not telling me anything I don't know. I read
Well,
it to
I didn't know until 2 weeks ago that they were going to deduct units. So that came as a great surprise to me.
And did that information come from Mr. Hollister or did it come directly from the Department of Housing? That I was.
Mr. Hollister commented in May
Right.
on our draft,
Right.
and then in discussions with the state, they indicated they would follow the policy of deducting units. Now, we believe our facts are distinguishable based upon
Yes.
the kinds of units we have, and we still have some hope. They may change their position, but we're not going to try to force a state agency to change their position by litigation. So
But I do think then I mean, there's a part of me that says, try to get another legal opinion, roll the dice and submit the moratorium application. That's not litigation.
I don't think that's a very wise approach.
Well, otherwise we're just sitting here and now we have almost 3 affordable housing applications by owner Clark. We have 2. We have Weed
I don't think
Street.
any of those will succeed because they're not economic.
Well, but they're
Mr.
there,
Carp is not going to build something that's not economic.
but they're there and there's.
Anyway,
a
I don't
third
want to,
one.
I don't want to comment on,
Okay, well, I'm just saying.
we
that-
shouldn't comment on the current.
Fair enough, I won't, but if you're telling us that we have to then wait until November till Canaan Parish is complete, that's not acceptable to me. And when I think there's another option that we should be exploring, and that would be, I mean, we get second opinions from doctors. I'm a litigator. I would there were second opinions for lawyers all the time. I don't think that it's a far out option just to speak to someone, just to see. And if they say, no, you're out of luck, then we haven't risked anything. And we say we've done our due diligence, but I just feel like there's a lot of reliance on Mr. Hollister, who at this point is antagonistic to our interests. And we look at him as the expert on this. And I'm saying there
No,
might.
no one's looking at Mr. Hollister as the expert. I'm just saying the architect of the strategy was Mr. Hollister.
Right.
And it's for him to be opposing it now doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, I
Right.
agree. I think it's.
I also
hugely-
believe that the Bircham are as expert in this area as anybody in the state, because there's only a few towns that have dealt with this issue.
Mhm.
Literally like less than 5 or 6.
Then let's
So
explore another attorney that's done one of I mean, I just think we need to exhaust these options before we just wait till November. That's my only advice is that I would like to tell people we're doing everything we can.
you know,
Kevin, just, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Just to be clear, so we've decided not to submit. the
we're not done with trying to deal with the state. It's just that we're not going to litigate with the state.
Right, but I mean, we could, it seems to me it's in our interest to submit an application
No, you can't submit an application unless it's a.
without the legal
Without the
opinion.
legal opinion. I had never seen that in any governmental practice before.
Right.
Have you ever seen
Did-
it? You have to wait?
SEC, just SEC filing, sometimes you've needed.
No, I mean, normally your facts.
Yeah.
Your facts justify your application. If you don't have the facts, now we believe our facts on our kind of units that were demolished. Otherwise, why would anybody pursue that strategy? It's a silly strategy.
Right, because you'd have to leave a building standing while you build the one that's supposed to replace.
Well,
it.
again, yeah, exactly, but so
Makes no sense.
I guess what,
Sorry, go ahead.
what I was trying to get at is, right now the 3 projects that are pending, we may not be able to,
we shouldn't comment on those.
but I mean, whatever we're talking about, this new application is not necessarily relevant to the 3 projects that have already been filed. But anyway, the point is, if a 4th project comes into, are we prohibited from exerting our position in that sense? In other words, if someone comes in, that we could say, well, we actually have a moratorium. We've met all the conditions of a moratorium.
No,
No.
Either you
have
it or you don't. That's the.
it's a certificate of exemption they give you. You gotta get that.
Even if it's based on,
Well,
By law.
again, if
Oh, Kevin, we appreciate you sharing all this stuff. And I know we kind of went into a little bit deeper in the weeds than we planned, but I think what you're hearing from everybody is, the 12 of us want to know that we're doing everything we possibly can. I mean, whatever we can help, however we can help, whatever we can do to help you move this thing along in any way, because we hear it, whether we're getting a cup of coffee or whether we're at the soccer field, wherever we are, we're hearing it. Like,
Right.
what are you guys doing? And Mike has said it over and over again. I mean, he's constantly bombarded with people saying, what are you doing? So.
Well, if nothing else, this is
And I know we can't-
educated the public that this law has to be changed.
Right. Well, and,
Right.
and
So-
my next point was going to be, because of this issue, we've really landed this particular issue on everybody's kitchen table in New Canaan. Folks who never heard about 830 had ever before now are actually talking about it over dinner, over lunch, whatever. Now it's a big issue. So going forward, I think as a town, we'll have a much better chance of discussing how we're going to do this, whether we're going to fund this like we do the roads, or however we attack this. Is it $2 million a year, $5 million, or whatever the number is? People will be a lot more in tune with it, and they'll be a lot more accepting of the fact that we're going to try to do whatever we can to meet these hurdles. So anyway, I didn't want to go into the weeds.
But, as set forth in our plan, our strategy continues to be on the treadmill with moratoriums.
And as
We
we
really-
have been, for how many years have we been running this? I mean, it's like, we're.
We got our first moratorium in 17.
Yeah.
It expired last June. If you watch the presentation from July 31, 18, they said it's tight that we can possibly get this second moratorium before June, right? It turned out to be too tight because the governor's debt plan, forced them for months to go out to the federal government instead to find financing. So, and then COVID came along. So, the original plan, but then to learn that the state has changed the rules on our facts is just incredibly.
That's not fair. Great.
I just have, maybe it's a comment or a question on the law itself, not necessarily the moratorium strategy, but I understand the law is the law and either we're going to be compliant or not. But are we also being proactive to help offer an alternative plan to try and change the law? So, I mean, if there's no other in a vacuum.
It's very clear who controls Hartford,
Okay.
right? The governor, Councilman Corbett made the comment at
Right.
Board of
Actually, the
Selectmen.
governor actually said he wanted to hear what New Canaan, the
Well, the
alternative.
governor's not helping his own hometown of Greenwich. He had the opportunity to override any law while he had emergency powers. He could have extended our moratorium. He refused to do so because legislators didn't let him.
Are we,
It's very clear who's controlling
But-
things in Hartford.
but are we working with?
It's
our
very clear
representatives? Are
the
we
governor,
working with our representatives?
the
Are we
governor will
working
give
with-
you, sweet talk, but if he doesn't agree to sign something for you,
So we're doing nothing is the answer. We're not. I
good
guess
luck.
I guess.
The legislators don't let him do it. He made that very clear to Will Haskell and Tom O'Day that he couldn't do it.
So we're not coming up with an alternative plan to maybe to help present to
My guest,
be a lead
Kathleen
to-
Corbett, has a good relationship with the governor. Get her to do something.
along with Darien and Westport and Greenwich to put forth maybe an
They don't
alternative.
care about Fairfield County towns. All they want is their money. They don't care about helping us. They just came out today with their state plan. There's nothing in there to help Fairfield County towns.
The answer is no, we're not trying.
Be my guest.
Kevin, let me ask.
You know a strategy.
Ask it, what? Yes, it a different way. You just said about Tom O'Day and Will Haskell. And what about, just what is Tom, Will, and Lucy, our reps up in
Exactly.
Hartford? What have they done?
You don't think- Ask them.
No, Tom's been out there.
Yeah.
This isn't a partisan thing.
Okay, if Will Haskell couldn't get it done last May,
That's what I'm asking.
because they were told legislators would not let the governor do it as it, right? So
So maybe
again,
this is something we could bring in the local, I mean, obviously we can't do it alone. So maybe we should be talking to your point, Mike, having the forum, bringing in people who can influence Hartford and can influence the I'm just,
I just want to make a comment. I read
think
the
we should try.
report, Kevin, and it looked like there were some other points besides just the moratorium. There was studying accessory structures.
those don't help you a lot.
But there was
They have to
four
be deeded
different-
for 40 years, so nobody.
strategies.
There was four different points. I understand the moratorium's number one, but there was four different avenues. One was planning and zoning could look at the zoning laws to encourage, to change things, looking at deeding accessory structures, figuring out ways to save older homes and turn them into affordable housing. But all I'm saying is the report does say that there's other avenues
Yeah,
besides
but
the moratorium.
the only effective one is to build new units.
Yeah.
Given the points you have to accumulate.
So you
And the
think-
only way is to do something on the scale of Canaan Parish. right? Doing something where you're getting 15 units out of 100 doesn't help you much.
And then that other point, if something new is built, can we mandate that a fair amount of those units are going to be affordable?
We do, don't we? Doesn't
do
planning
already.
and zoning?
Our inclusive zoning from last year ruled by P
That
and Z,
just started, right?
15% have to be
15%.
affordable
But we could
by any
change that.
development.
We
Huh?
could, we could up that. I mean, I'm just saying there's other
Well,
avenues.
they
besides
debated
this.
that and they decided on 15. Yeah, by the way, if you mandate something that doesn't work economically, developers are not going to do it. I've spoken to a lot of developers in the past 6 months, 8 months, Penny knows, trying to get proposal for in lieu of the police department, right? The trouble is developers can build when the land cost is $30,000 a unit in other towns. In New Canaan and Greenwich and Darien, the cost of land is $100,000 to $200,000 per unit. You cannot. So developers will not come and do it at those prices.
Mhm.
So.
In a way, you're only getting serious builders who really want to meet. I mean, if you make 50%, if you're doing a huge multi-unit development, could a town say 50% has to be?
Well, again, talk to planning and zoning. They came up with 15 because anything beyond that, developers are going to not come at all. So the private developers are not really the answer to this. The answer is building public taxpayer supported units.
You're just chasing an unrealistic number. That's why if you.
Well, again, nobody ever expects to get to 10%. It's not a goal. It's a trigger to allow developers to do things. It's a dumb law. And people better get serious about changing the law.
I think they'll agree with that.
So just to answer the question, Ryan Fazio actually introduced a bill and it failed because of, it was just voted down, never even made it past the first, hurdle that it needed to go through. And this is what's going on up there is that, as Kevin said, it just doesn't move. I mean, it's, we can have Will and Lucy and Tom standing on their heads, but until the rest of the state decides that they're going to support it.
So I understand. I feel like bills fail all the time. The first bill fails, the second bill fails, the third bill fails. I'm just saying I wouldn't give up. We need to keep.
I'm not saying
That's
give up.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I think we do need to keep the pressure on it. I think, there's also strength in banding together with other areas that are having the same difficulty. And I think we should continue to keep the pressure on and continue to try. That's all I'm saying.
I mean, I testified on that bill. It was SB 169, and it was just to study the law, to examine it. It wasn't even to recommend anything specific. And it was one sentence, and that did not make it out of committee. So it's very tough to get anyone to agree to even look at it just because of the political pressure in Hartford. That's just my opinion, but.
Thank you, Kim. All right.
Actually, let me finish my rest of my.
I'm sorry, Kevin. Sorry, no.
Go ahead. You've got the floor.
We're meeting next week with the superintendent and our other partner in 220 Elm on his plan to renovate their space to be up and running by probably the end of March. We're going to sign a lease with the 39 Locust Street building owner to rent that for the police swing space. It works to have all the police in that building. So the library construction loan agreement is about done and will be probably approved by the Board of Finance in July. The Playhouse, as you is on our agenda next, and then we will come back. The Community Foundation will be back on Friday with their ARPA recommendations for for nonprofits. We will probably have 2 other ARPA recommendations for the Board of Selectmen to approve on the 28th, and then to come to you. And finally, I'd like to note, as you have read, that we were successful in having Russ Kimes join us as our full-time EMD. And as I said last night at the EMS annual dinner, making New Canaan safe. We're known for our good schools, but being known to be a safe town, which means not only being prepared for any kind of event, whether it be a hurricane. We had a tabletop with the state last month on a category 3 hurricane. You have to be prepared for any kind of event, but also to make sure it's very important that we maintain our volunteer EMS, our volunteer firemen, and that requires more than just part-time people volunteer some time to have the plans and recruiting volunteers. So that's why having Russ is a native of New Canaan, a former Marine. He was willing to give up his career on Wall Street to work full-time for the town. So I'm thrilled with having Russ join us as full-time EMD. And that's what I have, folks. Any questions?
Kevin, I have one quick question on budget, and then maybe finance can answer this question. But now that we're halfway through the year, where is the town so far, department wide, in terms of where they are in their budgets?
We're going to start giving you quarterly updates like the Board of Finance gets, and we'll do it in July for the end of the June quarter.
Right.
So we'll do that every quarter now going forward. The Board of Finance has been getting it. Neither the Board of Selectmen nor the Town Council has been getting that. And we decided to have our new CFO do that with Josh quarterly. And the big issue for us right now is energy costs are going through the roof. It's going to blow our budget. We put a lot of inflation into next year's budget, but we didn't budget for $5 gas and $6 diesel fuel. So
Did you say $9 gas?
$5 gas.
Will be none.
Yes.
Okay.
Next week.
So I've asked finance to do a energy budget study with the Board of Education to see so people have their eyes wide open coming into July. And the new CFO at the Board of Ed will need to get his head wrapped around energy prices.
I've been out of the country for several weeks, so I'm not perhaps up to speed on everything, but you were talking about a construction loan for the library.
You know, the Board of Finance and the MOU speaks to financing their receivables and their pledges. The cash flow statement the library gave us indicated they won't start borrowing until next February. The high will be $7 million in I forget exactly when, but maybe next December. And then it'll be repaid by January 27. So that's really less than a 5-year swing. We will issue 5-year notes, which will probably cost us 2%.
That's not for the legacy building.
It's only for the receivables for the pledges.
Got it. Thank you.
Anything else?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Kevin.
All right, next up, item number 6 on the agenda is executive session. Before we go into executive, I just want to make a comment on the theater that we are close on this deal and we have to go in one more time. We don't like going into executive as a rule, and I think we've set a new record for executive on this deal. So I apologize for not being able to televise this, but we will come out of executive with some sort of announcement. We will also be announcing a future public comment session and really allow the public, whether it's on Zoom or whether it's in person, to dive into the details, look at this deal and decide once and for all whether or not we're gonna have a movie theater in this town going forward. So
Steve, we thought it'd be important if we gave you a little more
before
public
we go into
presentation before we go into executive session. I thought
Love
you were
it.
going to give
love it.
Steve
Thank
a
you.
heads up that we were going to do this.
But it's okay.
Sorry,
Go ahead.
that's all right. Good. Love it.
So as you know, we've been talking to a firm called Cinema Lab based in New Jersey. That became public, so we'll talk about it publicly. They're a very entrepreneurial group. They are looking to take over closed theaters in many of the majors like Bowtie have closed small town theaters like ours. Cinema Lab currently operates in South Orange, New Jersey, and they are working on Bradley Beach, and they have another screen out in Colorado. As Nick indicated, the CEO is Luke Parker Bowles. They have an interesting team that's kind of a virtual team. They don't. They have a lot of expertise in movies, and they're very into operating family-oriented, town-supported operations. They are entrepreneurial in the sense that they are looking to raise money locally, as they are in New Jersey, for each theater will stand on its own. So it really requires a lot of local buy-in. We are each going to put up, what's our total, 2.2? So as you recall, we have an $800,000 theater fund, which we've never spent. We've always collected the rents from the movie theater. We've never subsidized the theater before. But we collected all the rents and kept it for someday doing the kind of renovations we have to do now. The Board of Finance has authorized the transfer of that fund to begin the outside renovations. The brickwork, the building will be 100 years old next year. The brickwork requires repointing. It has a brand new roof, which we did fund with bonding 2 years ago. It was done last summer. A number of ADA issues in the building, such as, when you step out of the emergency exits, there's steps, you can't have that. We have to re-engineer some of the passageways and even inside the slope of the ADA has to be complied with. That's a significant amount of the capital work that has to be done in the building. The fire suppression system is above the drop ceiling. That has to be corrected. So we're going to spend a total of, now we also flipped it, as the Board of Finance decided upon our recommendation to flip it. So we're going to use only $600,000 of ARPA funds, instead bond $1 million. That's the recommendation that's being put forth to you to approve. Because the thinking is the rental we're getting, which is, I think, 3 times what the prior operator was paying. We're not going to have to do anything capitalized to that building for the first 10 years. Virtually everything will be new. And Cinema Lab would invest $1.5 million on the inside, new seats, new screen, projection equipment, sound system, bar. They will have the entire building, including the second floor. They will try to operate a membership club on the second floor, but along the Costco lines, anybody can join. It's not an exclusive club, but it's an opportunity to. Every theater these days is selling liquor and food as a way of making money. You don't make money. The movie companies take 65% of every ticket. So you have to find other revenue sources if you want to be an exhibitor. And we also plan to have not some alternative programming with independent films, but 90% or more will be first run movies. Because we're not in the catchment area of Stanford and Norwalk, we can run first run movies without the movie companies objecting. Unlike people like Avon that cannot run first run movies because they're within the same footprint of the other operators. So I think we've really developed a very good relationship with these folks. We did have other opportunities. We talked to 4 other potential operators. It's made very clear to us that the large operators are not interested in opening a small 2-screen cinema. I'm talking about AMC and which Bowtie has been split into 2. Half of the Bowtie cinemas have been sold to AMC. The other half are being operated by the operator who we've known for 25 years. Although he would be interested in operating our theater, he would not be willing to put any capital money into it. So we believe the Cinema Lab proposal is a very good proposal for the town. And we'll talk about, but we literally have been still negotiating. That's why we'll go into executive session to talk about the considerations that are remaining on the table. And then next week, because we have to have a public hearing for a lease, we will have a second meeting where you can get further public comment at a public hearing and then vote on both the funding and the lease. The town council has to approve the lease. And the Board of Finance has recommended $600,000 in ARPA funds and $1 million in bonding. So anything else we want to mention?
Pretty good.
Pretty, yeah. Working at it long enough, you get to know the house.
But Tucker and Bill and Tiger and I have, they keep in mind, Cinema Lab approached us. We didn't know who they were. They found us back in November, I think.
Fall.
October.
Yeah, might have been October.
And again, they're movie people, and I think we will be very happy with them as an operator. And they're very energetic, and they're very town oriented. They want to be part of the community. And as Nick has indicated, he knows the CEO, and that gives us a lot of confidence. And also the idea that the investor group will be local, so they'll have a say in how they operate the theater. It's nice to know we can, have. They have to raise the money, just like they're doing down in New Jersey. So Anyway, let's talk about any considerations about them in particular in executive session, but I want the public to know the general parameters are a very entrepreneurial operator who are doing it in New Jersey. They want to expand, as far as they can go, finding theaters that have been closed and reopen them.
So Bill's here tonight. So I've been asked by residents, what will the theater look like? How will it look different on the outside? Will anybody be able to see any difference on the outside? And then let's talk about what they'll see on the inside a little bit. I know we said new projection, new seats, but let's elaborate for the public a little bit because we've all heard the pitch. But I'd like to get that out there. So people-
The outside's going to really not change much at all. We want to preserve the look of the Playhouse. Signage will stay the same. It'll be continued be called the Playhouse. Marquee will still stay in place. Currently where the forest is now and on the left side where it's the display, that's going to be opened back up to for floor space as a lobby. I believe the inside on the left side is tentatively right now is supposed where the bar area will be. The right side will be more of their concessions. It's going to have a 1920s vibe to it with a look like that and like almost like speakeasy, so to speak. And the theater itself is going to be, they're not gonna have the big lush seats that you see in a lot of these twin theaters now, but it's gonna still have a seat that's comfortable and reclines. They're gonna have a little table with a lamp between every seat, so you have a place to put a drink down and what have you. It's gonna be the second floor. They want to expand the balcony. And when they spoke about having like the club membership up there, that'll give you access to that balcony, which will be a little bit more comfortable seating.
When the theater was twinned, we lost the access to the balcony.
Lost of it, yeah.
It used to be one big balcony, but when they twinned it, they lost that.
They lost that and they had to build, so what they had also do back then in 1970, they built the theater box up, the projection box. I believe that's going to be trimmed down quite a bit now that a lot of stuff is done with computers. So it'll open up that space a little bit more. Other than, on the facade and the outside, the windows we're going to replace, but they're going to look the same. They're just 100 years old and they're looking like they're 100 years old. And just really clean it up. As Kevin spoke of, we have to clean up the grade around the building a little bit to make it work for ADA. And it's in a rough shape anyhow. So we're going to take advantage of that and make a nice finish for whatever we do there.
And the ADA, can you talk about the elevator inside as well?
So the elevator is going to go to the second floor. Second floor is about 1,500 square feet, maybe a little bit more. And the thought right now, this is all tentative as we get the plan going, is to put take the bathrooms back out and downstairs. They were added downstairs on that left side of the lobby in 1970. The original bathrooms were upstairs. So we want to take those bathrooms, give the lobby space back, put them upstairs. You'll have the elevator. You'll still have the main staircase right on the left side. They're going upstairs. And it'll open up not only to the bathrooms, but then also to another open space up there. Discussion whether they're going to put a secondary bar up there or just have it for a rental space for private parties, what have you. And again, it'll be access to the balcony.
You can't operate a second floor without an elevator.
Yeah, you need, yeah. It becomes problematic for so many reasons nowadays. Just for employees to use the projection up there, we have to give accessible route to employees who may have a disability. So we figure if we have to do that, then let's open up the space downstairs. Let's give them all the square footage in the lobby so that they can, whether it's a special event or just a place for people to get there to the theater, what have you, have a drink before the movie. That's kind of their thought. They want to make it not just go into a theater, watch a movie and leave. They want to make it a good experience all the way through.
Yeah, during their presentation, they mentioned even using local vendors, local.
Correct.
local-
So they're gonna have to.
Right.
Right, so that was, they've been, I believe they've already been in discussion with some of the local restaurants to include them. And some food service would be just finger food, so to speak. They're gonna be high tech where you go online, you'll be able to, book your seat, pay for your seat. They may even extend that to having cocktails waiting for you when you get there and everything else. It sounds good. They're gonna involve the community of restaurants. I think it's a real win.
I mean, I would only add that you all have heard this, but again, if we're trying to make sure the public is fully aware, I did call all of the other theater, the Chamber of Commerce directors and the other folks along those lines in the other towns where they operate. And I got glowing reviews about how they're very community minded, very responsive, get involved in a lot of different things. So it was nice to hear those good comments.
So with that, can we go to executive session?
To invite in some folks.
Yeah, so we'll say goodbye to Grace. Thank you, Grace, coming. And then,
When we come out, you're going to announce
yes,
another meeting.
we'll announce another meeting when we come out, but
Not voting tonight.
we're not going to vote tonight, but we will have, the next meeting will be a big public information and back and forth. So
Tiger's on,
Tiger's on.
Tiger
Ian,
and Bill.
Bill.
You want Nick?
Yep.
Nick, you
And
can stay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
Stay.
yeah, Nick, it'd be nice if Nick would stay.
I mean, I do
Doug is Bill.
have Doug, and then I told Luke we'll leave him off and then invite him in
Yep,
if we need to.
yep.
Okay, so let me,
Mike
Michael
Chen.
Chen, thank
Yeah.
you, Tiger. Let me just go take care of that.
If Michael's joining us, he was going to try to join us.
Michael is on.
Okay.
Just give me a minute.
You can invite people in. Okay, we need a motion to come out of executive. Have a motion
So moved.
and a second. Tom, all in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you. All right, so we promised a little bit of an update here on the theater, on the Playhouse. So we have decided as a council to have a special meeting to take public comment on June 23rd at 7 PM in this room. That's a Thursday, if my calendar is correct. That's Thursday, June 23rd, 7 PM in this room. We'll take all the public comment, both by Zoom and in person. So please join us that evening. The follow-up will be on June 29th. We'll have also another special meeting. That's June 29th in this room, where we'll take the second part of our public comment on the issue. And then at the conclusion of that meeting, we will vote both the funding and the lease portion of the Playhouse. So that's a big night. So mark that on your calendars, 6/29. And hopefully we're going to do everything we can to get out and get the word spread about what this looks like. Please watch the beginning of this meeting. So we had a lot of detail regarding the way, the look and the feel of this new Playhouse. So thank you, Bill. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for the update. Anything else that we should mention? Okay, that's it on the theater. All right, moving on, committee reports, bylaws and ordinances, Tom and Hillary.
Got a little bit. So as you know, the Bylaws and Ordinance Committee met on May 19th to hear recommendations from the Conservation Commission to restrict the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. We need to meet again to consider next steps, which could include a town survey and probably some additional fact-finding about the impact restrictions would have on homeowners and landscaping businesses. Two other topics have come up as well. One owner of a commercial property would like to provide a dedicated parking space for a residential tenant. Currently, the town does not allow overnight parking. Another resident is asserting that certain of our ordinances restricting the use of town parks are in violation of case law involving the First Amendment. So we should probably take a look at that. We're trying to schedule a committee meeting for next week. That's probably not going to happen. But as soon as we can get together, we'll pursue those three issues.
All right, thank you, Tom. All right, education, that's Tom and Rita.
Yeah, so actually, and it's been a while since we've had like a full update, so I don't know like where to start. So I'm just gonna do highlights if that's okay. So everyone's very familiar with the start times issue or start times, the new start times. So just to lay it out there, and this is, we've been seeing it on social media, but so tier 1 is going to be grade 7 through 12 is going to start at 8 and go to 2:30. Elementary school is going to start at 8:35 and go to 3:10. And the 5th and 6th graders are going to start a little later at 9:15 to 3:45. They're still trying to work, this out. So what they're going to be doing is actually it's going to start next week. They're going to be doing practice runs to see if they can refine some of those times. But the great news is they have these extra buses as well. So a sports activity bus at 5:15 for this, at 5:15 for the high schoolers, and for 7 to 12, there's a 4 o'clock extra help bus. So really trying to make the effort of serving the community across, all grades. There's also going to be an early bird and after school care offering, and they're working on those programs. And then and then there's going to be an app where you can, this is really interesting. I don't know if you've heard about this, but there's an app now that you can find out where your kid is at. So you'll know when the bus is going to arrive. You can get your kid out the door on time. Which I think is amazing. I almost think it's unfair. You know, we had to deal with it. We had to miss the bus and all that. But so yeah, anyways.
Tells you when the bus is going to arrive.
Yes, yeah, yeah. And also when they're coming home, too, you'll know kind of
great.
when to go outside and meet your kids. So I thought those are really great. Really great stuff. We talked about the whole claims projection, so I won't revisit that. And then the last meeting, the big news is that graduation's happening this week. We're having Saks graduation on Friday, and then the high school is graduating tomorrow. My son is in 8th grade, so he's going to be graduating from Saks. So I'll be at graduation. And then at the last board meeting, they did the CABE, the Connecticut Association of the Boards of Eds. They had their leadership awards that they extended to their to the winners, to the high schoolers. And they also did a great recognition ceremony for all the retirees, which I thought was really lovely. They did a really nice job. And then the other thing that I just think is really super interesting is the internship program, the senior internship program. I don't know if any of you here are involved in that at all. Yeah, I mean, I think it's the participation has gone from like I think it was 10 years ago. There were a few people that did this. 11.
I was one of the founders of the.
Yeah, so you are, obviously you're familiar. And there were like, at the high, it's been over 300 students that were participating. I think this year it was 274, about 274 seniors that participated. And I think it's a great program. And I love that the community is getting involved as well and offering these internships. So it's phenomenal.
I would hire Steve Carl and pilot the program for anything going forward.
And then they also just announced $59,000 from the All Sports Foundation for additional coaches, and another $6,000 for free strength and conditioning for off season for students, which I have to say, I think is, again, just a great service to the community that we're offering these kids over the summer. So that's all I have in terms of school. Do you have
Great.
anything to add, Tom?
I just had a question that Kevin had asked last time, the ARPA funds for the Board of Ed got some ARPA funds. Do you know what they spent it on?
That's that of the town council.
I was here. Oh, it was somewhere.
Different meeting. But anyway, I don't know all the details, but I do know that the criteria for ARPA funds that were received by the Board of Ed are entirely different than for the town.
Yep.
They came out much earlier than ours. The money's, I think, all been allocated, if not totally spent. And one example of the use is summer catch-up programs for people that had some learning deficiencies from being out of school and
Yep.
for COVID. And a lot of the focus of that ARPA money was to help the kids catch up.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to see if I had any more notes on that, on the ARPA, because they did mention that, but yeah, I think that's right.
All right. On to finance and government, Maria.
So, Mark just gave me a message that the New Canaan Community Foundation will be presenting their recommendations for dollar amounts for the ARPA nonprofits within the next 2 weeks. And then I guess it'll go to Board of Finance. That
We're selecting on the 28th. Their recommendation, they're presenting on the 28th.
Oh, he said within 2 weeks, so yeah, that worked.
Yes.
And then it'll go to Board of Finance and then us. That's the update.
Great. All right.
Subcommittee will have to meet in between there, the ARPA subcommittee. They have to meet once Board of Selectmen has heard them and made the recommendation, and the subcommittee will have to meet.
Be a tough week. I'll be on vacation.
Oh my gosh.
All right, Health and Human Services, Kim and Penny.
Sure. I'm just going to bring up 3 big areas. This kind of is a long meeting, and I just want to bring up 3 areas that I think are important. The health department is working with New Vance Health, which is formerly Norwalk Hospital. Still exists, but they're calling themselves New Vance Health. The Community Health Improvement Plan is a survey that's done every 3 years, and I sent it out to everyone on town council to send that out to anyone that they, any residents, just because it does direct funding, and it also helps programming, like things like the YMCA. When the health department sits down with the YMCA, it helps to tailor the programming specifically to issues in New Canaan. I took it, it took about like 7 minutes, and it was actually pretty interesting. I also wanted to talk about the Behavioral Health Alliance with Silver Hill. We got a little update on that they're trying to strengthen what they're calling the navigational pathway. So when someone goes to Silver Hill for an evaluation, they want to make sure that it's a soft handoff to someone that can get outpatient services and that it's followed up on. So they're trying to strengthen that network. I did hear that they've gotten 25 calls so far for the program, which is to be rolled out on July 1. So that's kind of interesting. I guess there is a demand, and we did hear that Darien and Ridgefield, Kevin, you might know more about this, but they're not signing on yet at this point to the Silver Hills Alliance. They might change their mind, but it's just us at this point. Is that correct?
Well, it's just us. We believe Darien will probably come in, but Ridgefield was never really expected.
Okay. And the last thing I want to mention is something that I think sounds really cool. It's a nonprofit called Active Minds. And it's a group that trains students in peer-to-peer counseling. And it's something that they're thinking about rolling out at the high school. Statistics show that 67% of teenagers are more likely to talk about their mental health with a friend or a peer rather than with an adult. So this program would actually train students to talk to one another. They need an adult supervisor. So New Canaan Cares is working with New Canaan Public Schools to see if they can have a synergy to roll out this program. So it's a real need given the mental health issues, anxiety and depression amongst teenagers all over the country at this point. But we're kind of leading the way with the Behavioral Health Alliance, which is a great idea, as well as programs like this. So that's it.
Great.
Okay.
Nice update, Kim. Thank you. Infrastructure and utilities, Christina.
I don't have an update, but Tiger's on and I think he can give us an update.
Tiger, all the roads in New Canaan are completely paved, I hear.
Every single one, Steve.
Okay,
Every
good.
single one.
You can go home now.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that Kevin gave you a little bit of briefing on Eversource Gas. Aquarian Water just finished work on Millport Avenue and Olmsted Court. Will be coming in later this year to repave Millport and Olmsted with their help and put in new sidewalks on Millport on the one-way stretch from Lakeview to Main Street. Concrete sidewalks with granite curb. Aquarian's also working on Park Place, Leslie Lane and Whitney Avenue, and then we'll be doing Faraday and Orchard later on once they get this first phase done. And then they're going to be coming into the downtown area, Elm Street, from Main to Park, right after mid-July, right after the sidewalk sale. They'll come in and work at night and put in a new water main there. And that'll be in concert with the bump out work that'll restart next week and continue past the Playhouse. The repaving of our roads will start the week of the 27th of June. We've been waiting to finish sidewalk work and drainage work we have on all the roads. And then we're going to start at Mortimer, Brinkerhoff and Lockwood. And then proceed through the rest of the roads. We have about another 10 roads to go. And we included Main Street from Lakeview Avenue to just before the library, and then Park Street from Old Stamford Road to just before Elm Street, since Eversource Gas will be on Elm Street heading westbound. So it kind of gives you an idea of what we have under play at present.
That's great. Thank you, Tiger.
You're welcome.
Yeah, where you driving around, it's busy out there. I mean, there's construction going on all over the place. So it's coming along. All right. Next up, land use and rec. Robin and Lou.
I'm gonna try to go quick. Sorry, there was a lot. Phoebe Knowles, the Executive Director of Waveney Conservancy, presented and they received permission for the sculptures that are up now at Waveney. We're seeing the iPhone and the Samsung, so those are up. The Carriage Arts Center presented, this was last month. The bathroom work and the lobby remodeled is finished. If anyone hasn't seen it, highly recommend you go. It's beautiful. There's a new foyer and meeting room made from the former apartment, which was the caretakers. The meeting room can be rented out for meetings, has a large TV for presentations and a small side kitchenette. Carriage Barn Art Center said there's an art studio in the basement, but needs to be updated, and they were interested in that. I think they're going to bring that up again. Summer concert series started tonight. This is something due to supply and staffing shortages. Apple Cart at the pool has asked that the concession stand be closed at least 1 day a week, preferably a weekday, possibly a Tuesday, and allow for a food truck to be at the pool to cover the need. They want to vote on it that night, but Commissioner Bennington said they need to wait for the next meeting. They did vote, but it wasn't actually a vote because it's the Board of Selectmen that determines it. It was just a recommendation. I'm assuming, Kevin, I don't know, was that?
Yes, it's added to the agenda.
Okay, so it's added for the agenda, and where they would have the food truck is on the grass by, there's a double fence, and the pool will be there, so kids are not running out into the parking lot. They are asking for possibly 2 days a week, just because in case it has to be closed, Apple Cart needs to be closed more than one. Peter Eldridge presented to the commission about a patio with picnic tables and benches in memory of Steve Benko next to the paddle hut. I was working with Terry Hott. $6,500 was raised from men's club, men's and women's paddle leagues. They've been working with John Howe on the project, which was approved by Parks and Rec in the last meeting. And it's going to be moved. It's going to be used by more than just paddle players. And Greg's Landscaping is donating shade trees for the project. Allison Mahoney and Monica Capella Chimera, I probably butchered that, presented for Friends of Mead Park Playground. They would like to install the sign for the playground and have a celebration, which was delayed due to COVID. The sign and the celebration would be paid for initially by the town, and then the Friends of Mead Park would issue a grant to the town to cover the costs. I was a little unclear about that, but the language on the sign needs to be tweaked. So the chair, George Bennington, asked if they come back the following July. Their concern is about supply chain issues, so they want to have a special meeting. George said that the Parks and Rec could have a special meeting to approve within 24 hours notice. Friends of Mead Park did bring up the issue of trash at Mead Park. They asked if they could fund a pilot project to maintain receptacles within the park, as currently dumpsters are in the parking lot and in the big field. Parks and Rec Director John Howe did not think that was a good idea. Emptying the garbage cans has put 2 town employees on permanent disability from lifting the cans. He says carry in and carry out actually keeps the park cleaner. Commissioner Goodman is going to work with the Friends of Mead Park Playground on a possible proposal and recommendation for the garbage. And then the last from the Parks and Rec is that the question was brought up about clinic instructors not getting paid on time. And John Howe said that the recreation would like to switch to a self-sustaining fund, but different than an enterprise fund. For next year, this year will be through the budget, but next year they would like to switch over to a sustaining fund. So I'm assuming we're going to hear more about that. And then Conservation Commission, there's a brush fire at Bristow started by some kids. That brought up the question of cameras by Commissioner Andros. Food scraps is about 1,000 pounds a week. Tiger brought up the SWAT shop, said he was doing electrical work is being done in the lobby. River testing is still being conducted, and that's
a lot. That's a lot. You mentioned the Waveney concert series is beginning, and also coming up this summer, you've got summer theater, we've got the Family Fourth, right?
Mhm.
And that the Family Fourth is, to be clear for the public, it's the 2nd, not the,
it's July 2nd. July 3rd, July 9th.
and
And your tickets are good from last year. If you've lost it, you just go to the rec department because they have the list there.
Okay.
And tickets will, if you don't have a ticket, they will be on sale at the rec department, Walter Stewart's,
Town clerk's office.
town clerk's office, and then the pool on July 1st and 2nd. Yeah, I think so. But your passes from last year you can use.
and the clamshell is up, and summer theater will be having their show soon, I'm sure. And there's a Pops in the Park coming, as well as New Canaan Chamber Music is going to have a concert in the park. There's a lot going on this summer. If you're around Waveney, it's going to be hopping. And there's plenty to do at the new Steve Benko pool too. So that was we'll mention that as much as we can. Steve Banko Pool. All right. Next up, public safety, Mike and Rita.
So for fire, the rescue truck, finally, we're getting that. Will be in service within another week or two. The men are being trained on it now. The fire department's happy to report that we have 3 volunteers from Norwalk that will be finishing their training soon and will be in service. We have 3 new volunteers who just signed up. They're all from New Canaan. So I think that that bylaw that we put in place, the ordinance we put in place, incentivizing people to volunteer, I think is bearing
They're
some
all from
fruit.
New Canaan?
3 new ones, yeah,
Nice.
all from New
Alright.
Canaan, sure. The fire is also working with the planning and zoning has a fire consultant with respect to the 751 weed application. So he's a former fire department chief, so the consultant is interfacing with our fire department in providing relevant information that the P and Z consultant needs to assist P and Z. So that's fire. The police department, Kevin covered what's going on with the building. Right now, we're just trying to figure out which of the 2 architects to choose. As a liaison to the police building committee, I've made it a point to let the committee know that what the town council would look for is a recommendation on the architect and the plan to go with. But then we would expect that we have a presentation on both architects and both plans, so the town council can fully understand the scope of both sides. I also explained that I think it'd be best to have summary sheets for the 2 competing plans. Here's project A, here's project B, here's what you get through, bullet points, here's what you get here, here's what you get here, here's the cost. I think that'd be very helpful for all of us to understand in a very, easy way. This is what it looks like, and then we'll be prepared to ask questions and obviously feel the presentation. So we're very comfortable in committing the town to a project that's probably going to be somewhere between 20 million to upwards of 25 to even potentially 28 million, depending on how, things kind of shake out. So yeah, so I explained, that the town council will be looking and examining when we get those types of numbers coming in. So that's why I said we expect to have presentations so we can have a full understanding of what we're committing the town to moving forward. Aside from the police building, burglaries are up, chief noted. He said a lot of the times people have alarms on their houses, but many of them don't have them on the sliding doors. So he's trying to raise some awareness that get your Sloman Shield guy in and get a little, sensor on that back door. And many of the break-ins have been houses that have been under surveillance. So everyone should be, ever mindful that the criminals are out there. The chief has stepped up patrols in the parks to help, kind of curb the break-ins that we've been seeing in the parks. And I think that's been bearing some fruit. The next issue is we all received from the chief the proposal for $110,000 in ARPA funding. Most of that will be for a dedicated officer to the schools to do patrols and essentially checks, exterior checks. If it goes to plan, the chief expects there'd be, more than an additional 1,000 checks per year at the schools during the school season. So the officer wouldn't be like the same person every day. Pursuant to union hiring rules, would have to be made available to all of the police officers, and then they would essentially rotate through according to the union contract. According to the chief, the superintendent thinks it's a good idea. So I would hope that we can kind of push this issue quickly and not have to wait through multiple sessions of discussions. I think it's a pretty clear-cut issue, especially in light of the Uvalde massacre. The chief definitely is endorsing this as something that we need to get moving on. So I hope we can all give that a sense of urgency. The final point is on school security. Overall, I know I've been getting a lot of questions about what the town's capacity is, the police department, their capacity and training for, to respond to an event, number one, but also what of our, hardening our school itself. I know I've been chatting with some Board of Ed members as well about that. And I think it may be worthwhile in the very near future to have some type of public discussion or forum where we can invite the chief and hopefully the superintendent and have a discussion about the town's capabilities. Certain things can be disclosed in public, some things cannot. But it's a very pressing issue. You know, we received a survey from 2017. That crisis survey, you know, seems to like we need to make sure that we're on top of everything. So I know it's right on the forefront of the chief's mind, and I think the superintendents as well and the Board of Ed. So I'd like to see if we can try to coordinate something, you know, in the future, so the town can understand what, you know, what our capacities are. And by the way, that includes the private schools as well, because that's something the chief wants to make sure that, you know, the private schools aren't kind of, so to speak, left out, which they're not currently, but it's just more of an integrated, you know, crisis response plan with all of the schools in the town.
Just,
And that's it.
yeah, just to add to that, 'cause I actually met with the chief just to be more in tune with safety in general. And there are two things just in terms of the school safety. So there's the patrols, but then there's what can we do to stop things from ever even, you know, happening. And so social media monitoring, there are actually like tools out there where you can identify problems and with people ranting on social media or making threats, where you're not manually like going through social media, but there's actually algorithms that kind of catch this stuff. So I think that might be something we might want to invest in once we identify the right tool. And the second thing, I didn't realize this, are you aware that there's an anonymous tip app? Sorry, an anonymous tip, yes. But it's not a hotline, it's an app. Like so it's on your phone where you can anonymously like provide tips to the police. I did not know that. And I think that would be helpful for folks to know, or even like, I don't know, teens to know if one of their friends might be threatening the school, to know that they can actually anonymously have a tip. And I know you know, there is a fear that people will be doing that as like a prank, and that happens. But I talked to him about that, and he said that's not really very common, and they have ways of kind of rooting that out. But I think it's a really great idea to make sure that's more widely known.
Is that connected to the local police department or?
So it gets like, I'm not quite sure the mechanics of it, Christina. I mean, great question. We didn't have time to kind of go into it, but yeah, I mean, I don't know how it works, but yeah, they do get those tips locally. We just have to figure out what the mechanics are.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Thanks for the update and great points on the police station. I mean, obviously we'll want a full-blown presentation when the time comes from, you know, I have talked to some of the building committee folks about that. Hopefully they'll be coming to us soon with the plan. So.
Yeah, we're getting very close.
Good. All right, let's see. Lastly, New Canaan Library. So obviously the library is coming along nicely. We meet every Monday morning. They're on schedule, they're on budget. Obviously, you've seen some of the glasses actually going in now. The first floor, you can start to see the glasses in. Over the next month or so, you're going to see the stone starting to come in. And inside the building is really coming along. A lot of mechanicals are in there. They've poured all the floors, all the concrete's done, all the steel's done. So it's really, really coming along. They're on track. And as far as the legacy project goes, they've got the architect in full blown action. So they're drawing up all the plans, they're getting all that stuff done. And hopefully you'll see over the next couple of months another presentation. At some point, they're gonna have to go through and present the final stuff to P&Z to get you know, the final look and everything done. But that's all coming, and everything's moving along nicely. And they've given tours to some of we had one tour of the building a few weeks ago, but I also mentioned the fact that the council would like to come through the building at some point and look. So we're trying to arrange a good time where we'd be able to do a walkthrough. I don't know if anybody's interested, but
I am.
you know,
I was going to do it myself. Like
so,
it'd be great if we all went.
so we can do, I'll get that on the schedule so we can walk through. Maybe we'll get the Board of Finance invited as well, so we can walk through it. But it's just something, you know, when you're able to go upstairs and you're able to start to see the views that you're going to have from this building.
Yeah.
And the views of the steeples in town and the off of that top deck and all the foliage that you're going to see and the amazing, it really is going to be amazing when people get in there and see exactly what this building is. So very, very excited. It really is amazing. So anyway, that's it on the library. Yes.
How's the legacy building project going to be funded?
They're still talking about that. That's still up in the air as far as how, whether it's going to be part of a town fund or how that's going to work. But so far they've moved ahead at least to the planning stages. And I think from the town's perspective, everybody's sort of expects that we'll be there for them if they need money, and that's where we are. So.
Is it still opening date of February? Are they projecting?
It's not, well, so they're actually talking about the move from the one building to the other building at the end of the year. So by the time they've got a consultant in that's sort of studying how that's all going to work, where they're going to be able to move out of the old building and into the new building before they demolish that part that connects to the 13, which then will allow them to get that moved. And so the sequencing, as Lisa pointed out in our last meeting, is critical, because you only have so many months to keep all the contractors in place and get, Turner Construction and get all the way through this project. So it looks like February, they should be able to get opened in the new building. So, but it's still gonna, you still have a lot of construction going on over there in terms of the demo and all that. So it's a huge project, as you can imagine. So, but I'm anxious for everybody to see it. It's pretty amazing. I haven't seen it in 3 or 4 weeks. So it's every day that goes by, something new happens over there. So it's really, really exciting. All right, that's it. Motion to, anybody have any comments, questions, committee reports or any of that? So we will be back in this room quickly. So we're back on the 23rd, right? 7 p.m. So we'll see you then. And we need a motion to adjourn. Christina, second.
Rita.
Second, Rita. All in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you, Tiger.